Okay, guys. So I want to talk about my video, my interview, the whole media thing that just went down. I just had my breakfast and I just got home after stopping at the grocery store and picking up a few things. So I think my face is kind of might still be red, not sure from the whole thing. Um, we had an awesome time. We had a lot of fun, and I'm going to be putting this interview on my community channel as soon as I can. So I will be checking it to see if it's out. Um, had a great time. It was on the show Be Encouraged, which I had already talked to Frank before, with my last interview with him when I had Cleaning Your Way, and now I'm rebranding to Stellar Shine. So people usually like this name. It's more fitting. It's also about girls shining. It's about them showing that they can shoot for the stars and shine. So it's got the business side and it's got the social impact, which I like. So this was a lot about pro life, but knowing Frank as I'm getting to know him, and I really like this guy. He says whatever he wants to say. So I had prepared my message. And even when you prepare for an interview, okay, you never know which way it's going to go. So it's kind of funny, some of the things that were said. So, one question I was asked as I was talking about pro life stuff is, will I marry again? And I'm like, no, no, I will not marry again. This is on, they have a pretty big audience. So, um, that was kind of off topic, which is fine. But no, I will not marry again. I said in front of everybody publicly that I still love my husband. And sometimes people um, give you the worst of them, and there's a reason for it. I've had someone else say to me, he must really be hurting to act like this toward you, Melissa. So, for better or worse, I mean, I still love my husband, whether the court says we're divorced or not. So, so no, I will not marry again. And then we had talked about pro life stuff, which I really wanted to hit on. And he had said something like, boy, you're very focused on this. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And I want to change the world with this. So they are not political. We talked about that during the show that they just wanted to put that like disclaimer out. They are not political. And, I don't know why this is a political issue. And we both agreed it shouldn't be. I mean, we're talking about life or death here. So that language, too, this is the second time in my circles um, of networking I heard, we're not political. And it's really not. It's not political to me. It's not. It's we're talking about life or death for the baby. And I think we make it political to somehow avoid this issue in society. So I had just been contacted last night and had signed a bill for support in New Hampshire, and I don't know that I can do this, but I did put it out there that I supported no abortions after 15 weeks, which we shouldn't even be talking about this. It should be no abortions at all. And I guess the bill was withdrawn. So, anyways, it's just like, why are we talking in this language about whether somebody should be killed or not? So, I mean, I understand the show has to be like that, but I keep running into this, and I ran into it too in the sidewalks. Like, I had talked to pregnancy centers, and they were like, "Well, we don't want to be political," and it's just like, what exactly are you saying? Like, if it was me, are you being political, whether I should die or not? I mean, I don't understand why we're extending this to babies. So, had a really good time, talked about my business. I was asked what I plan to do, like maybe this year. That's really big. Definitely the app I'm working on, but I also got contacted from a film academy, and I'm looking to make my story into a movie too, to have a bigger conversation where we can talk about what really happens with abortion, because a lot of girls don't know and they're still like, how was your abortion? How do you think it was? Right? I remember that question being asked. So we're not having enough conversations. We're not really talking about what abortion truly is, how women get there. So I do want a film about this eventually. It may be a year in goal, or it may have to wait a couple more years, but that is my next thing after my app. And So, we talked about, one of the hosts said that, if her daughters got pregnant, she would be having the babies, because somebody should have them. And so as I talk about my cleaning business with all my experience that I've had in the workplace, I am now really focused on, not just on the business, but on the social impact part. And, I was thanked for doing this. And I'm like, no, I enjoy doing this. And Frank was very open on there about how he came from, I think he was the oldest of 15. And so I had talked about my backstory, which is my mother's story, and my grandmother's story of how she had 10 in the projects. And if my grandmother can do it, and my family could survive with 10, and my mom was put in an orphanage for a short time, with 10, then I think our society, where we have so much money, much more money than years ago, I think we can do it. And I think what's missing, like Frank said, is back then, you had each other's love, your love for one another, supported each other. And it wasn't about money. Raising kids, most people were dirt poor years ago. They were. America did not have all this materialism. And it wasn't about money. It wasn't about how much you had or how much you didn't have. And you just were family and you loved one another, right? Or you took care of each other. Or even if you didn't like each other, you were still family. So we are losing that nowadays in this society. We're just kind of like, the girls are kind of like, well, I don't know if I want to be fat. I don't know if I want a kid, and so murder is justified. And whoop. And so we want to be people who show girls, as I said, with support. And he had said, you're very open about the help you got. And I go, that's because I was persecuted a lot for this. I came from a family where, you work to get what you need. I mean, not so much even my family as much as my husband's. I heard a lot of, you know, you should just, make a grilled cheese. Why do you have to go to a food pantry? And it really doesn't address the needs. A grilled cheese doesn't take care of your teenage sons. Okay. So, but I had talked about how, when I went to CAP, for help with heating assistance, I would see forms that say, what do you do for work? And I would say, I'm a homemaker. And I would hear about it. No, no, we want to know what your real work is. And I'd be like, that's what my real work is. And so people don't value enough what a woman does. I mean, she's cooking, she's got dinner on the table if she's working at this, okay? She's got to take care of the home. She's got to take care of her kids. She feeds them, clothes them, school, bring them to school. If you don't homeschool, I talked about my homeschooling experience, how that was used to turn everything around to Christian values. I talked about, just a lot of different stuff, how important it is to elevate motherhood. And whether you agree or not, motherhood is extremely valuable. And we live in a society that does not value motherhood right now. So, I mean, you're working 24/7 when your kids are little. You have to watch them at night, especially when they're little and they're babies. You need to look out for SIDS. You're like a doctor, a counselor, a nutritionist, a cleaner, everything, homemaker, all in one, plus a wife. You're doing everything, right? And so then, I talked about my divorce a little bit just because, he had asked how I got here and I talked about that. And I said, well, I had a little bit more than a text message with my divorce. I had one phone call. And that's when my husband hung up on me and didn't even want to talk to me. So there was really no conversation with the divorce, not really. And so I said, it's like what we talk about. This show is about resilience. And I had to be resilient. I had to say, with a car broken down when I got here unexpectedly, no money except the very little my husband would send like a few months later. How am I going to make it? My car broke down in September. How am I going to do this? He just left. And so I had experienced being a single mother, for a little bit. My husband wasn't there and I had a minor. And we talked about different things. And, a lot of people can relate to growing up with nothing and how are you going to make it. So he's like, that's the story we want. That's the story. And that's how we got on Whether I'll Marry Again. Because when you have been left with nothing, you come out to a new state, You're trying to make it, you're trying to figure things out. You have to be resilient, and you have a choice. You have to say, either I'm going to sit there and cry, or I'm going to stay on my feet and I'm going to succeed. And they do say revenge is the best. No, success is the best answer to revenge. So I did watch something last night that helped me too. And, I deserve more than his midlife crises. I deserve a lot more than that. So, there is a lot to that. We didn't really get into it. But just in life, how did you pivot? How did you transform? What happened here? Life is not just a straight path most of the time. There's usually a lot of different stuff happening. And how did it transform you? So we had a great time. We hugged in the end. I already have hugged this guy. With all of us took a group picture. He's like, "Come a little closer, and then maybe you'll want a man again." And I think my face turned red in the picture. So um, we had a lot of fun, and you just have to take, he is funny. He says whatever's on his mind, and he has said that during the interview. And he's funny. So I did take over a little bit just to help him, and he pointed that out. But funny video talking about how I took over his leadership a minute there. So I'm gonna post that and watch it. And I was with a friend who's in my class, and we just had a lot of laughs and had a fun time. But as he said, you keep going back to this pro-life stuff. And I said, I will be a world changer. I want a huge online platform to help women. And I'll probably be pulling together some kind of classes for that to help women, be able to keep their babies, with classes, with workbooks and everything too. So it's probably going to be like a class, a post-abortive class kind of thing, but on the side of helping women keep their babies, and then a post-abortive class. And I talked about that too, how we're living in a society right now that just does not value motherhood, and how we need to just kind of change that narrative, and just be able to help women, and women who have had abortions too, because of the trauma that they don't talk about that's involved with that. So very, very happy with this exposure, very happy. I did do a couple shout outs to the book that's coming out. It's on there with me, with my story, how I started off, and then with my just my cleaning business stuff. So check it out. It's going to be on my community channel. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me.